Hello and a warm welcome to the program People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marire. Nigeria's national grid has collapsed multiple times in 2024, with the most recent incident happening in mid-October, just a few days ago. Now, apart from the huge inconveniences and the embarrassment of the frequent blackouts, the economic costs for businesses and households are unimaginable. Experts in the power sector blame the situation on outdated infrastructure, insufficient power generation, underinvestment, and vandalism. After years of reforms in the sector, with billions of dollars reportedly spent, not much progress has been made. So, where do the problems lie? Is it in infrastructure? Is it in generation, transmission or distribution, and even regulation of the sector? Now, what strategies should Nigeria adopt to achieve a stable, reliable, and sustainable power supply to drive the economy? These are the issues we'll be looking at today as we reflect on the frequent collapse of the grid in Nigeria, the national grid in Nigeria. In fact, the last collapse, which was just a few days away, is recorded as the seventh in how many months? In just 10 months. That's from January to October, 7 collapses that have taken place. What are the issues? These are the things we'll be looking at on the program today. We will take a short break, and when we return, we'll meet our guest analysts who are already on set.
The Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT.
All right, I guess to meet our guest analysts. Right here with me in the studio is Mr. Nick Agule. He is an energy expert and an accountant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir, for welcoming me onto the set, and I greet all our viewers this afternoon.
Welcome. Also joining us virtually is Mr. Kunle Olubiyo. He's the president, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network. Thank you, Mr. Olubiyo, for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Welcome. We're also joined by Mr. Sunday Oduton. He's the Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Association of Nigeria Electricity Distributors. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Oduton.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Welcome. Right, so let's begin on an exploratory note. For all three of you, what exactly do you understand by the national grid? What is the national grid? Because we talk about it globally. What does the national grid really is?
I guess I'm the studio, so to go first. Okay, thank you very much. So the national grid, let me just break down how power gets to our homes or businesses. There is a generation station, which is either using gas, and we call them thermal stations, or the turbines are driven by water, which is a hydro station. So they generate the power. And as they generate the power, you need to evacuate the power from the point of generation to the point of usage. Say, for instance, now, we have a thermal plant in Egbin, in Lagos. When it generates power with gas, that power needs to be used in Abuja, where we are. So you need a vehicle to wheel that power from the point of generation to terminate it at the point of usage, which is here in Abuja. That is the work of the national grid. The national grid transports power from the point of generation to the point of usage. So when the national grid brings the power to Abuja, then the discos take over. That's the distribution companies. They take that power from the national grid and send it into homes and businesses and all of the other users here in Abuja. So it is all over the nation. So that is the work of the national grid.
All right, Mr. Lubio, what do you understand by that, by the national grid? Does that fit into what Mr. Nick has spoken about?
Yes, thank you very much. I want to adopt the position of the first speaker. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, can hear you.
Yeah, I want to adopt the position of the first speaker by the definition of the national grid. It's a tripod, like he has said. You have the generation, transmission, and distribution. That is grid source energy. And you probably have the line materials. It's like the transmission is a go between and the conveyor or the transporter of what the generation does every day. But before that, we have primarily in the present nomenclature, the thermal stations and the hydro stations, and maybe a pocket of off-grid that has been looped to the national grid. For gas thermal, you need fixed up like gas. For hydro, which is renewable, you need water, and you can equally have other sources of energy mix that could be interlinked to the national grid. It's a tripod of grid value chain, like he has said. So I want to adopt his definition of the national grid. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Lubio, we need you to properly adjust your camera so that we can come to you and hear you properly and have good picture quality moving forward. But for now, let's turn to Mr. Oduton, what exactly he understands by the national grid, because the two previous speakers have said that it's an interconnection of networks that are designed to move power from point of generation to the point of consumption. Is that your understanding of it? Mr. Oduton.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, let me make just a little bit of clarification. I'm the current MDTO of ANED. I'm the MDCO. I'm not no more an executive director with ANED. That said, talking about the national grid, my two colleagues, they are right, what they have said. I mean, I can just break it down into a layman's language. The national grid, which is in Nigeria, the transmission company of Nigeria, they are the transporter of electricity. When electricity is produced, we call it generation, when it is generated, but it is production process. When the product, which is electricity, is produced, they are the one that transport it from the point of production to the point of distribution. And that's exactly what my colleagues have earlier explained. So that is what it is, national grid.
All right, let me stay with you and get to understand why you think that there is always this frequent collapse of that grid that we have been talking about. Why is it so? I mean, in 2024 alone, it's estimated that we have recorded about 7 incidents of grid collapse.
Okay. The way to explain, there are 2 ways of explaining this. One way is technical. The other way, again, like I said, layman's language. For our viewers to understand it, I will use the layman's language. I will not go technical. The frequent grid collapse are due to 2 major factors. One is vandalism of the towers that we witness nowadays in Nasarawa State, in Niger State, and so many locations in this country, even in Ogun State, one time. Some vandals will go and collapse that big tower. Nigerian people call it high tension wire. Now, when they vandalize those 330 kV transmission line, it will affect the grid as a whole. Because we have a single grid, right? But that's one. But the other one, which is the major cause of grid collapse, is the underinvestment in that sector or in that area of the sector. Number one, if our level of generation is too low, then it means that we don't have what is known as spinning reserve. So there's a minimum that can be generated for the transmission line to be stable. The moment you go below that, then it will affect the grid. Then when you go way above what the capacity of the grid can take, the grid will collapse. So it's both ways, too low, too high. Now, why can it be too high? It is going to be too high if we fail to increase our transmission capacity. And over the years, we've not been truthful to Nigerians in terms of telling everybody exactly what is going on. I'll give you an example. This one that happened 2 days, 3 days ago. Did you hear TCN coming out to tell us exactly what happened? We should be upright. We should tell Nigerians this is what has happened and this is what we are doing to resolve the issue. You don't get to hear that. That, to me, is part of the problem. Unless and until we invest more in the transition, even in the whole value chain, we need to generate more, we need to increase our transmission capacity and distribution capacity. And this is not about blaming anybody. In fact, those who blame the government, one bad thing about the Nigerians is anytime anything happens, the first person to blame is the president. That is nonsense politics. We don't need to put this blame at the president. We need to all get our act together, let everybody play their part. Let Nigeria know the true capacity of our transmission line, and let us all agree on what we need to do. And over the years, they've been making some investment, I must say, since the time of the last government till now. The cement project is going on. That has helped a bit, but we are not where we're supposed to be. So we still have a long way to go. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Agule, let me bring you in now. He has said a number of things. Yeah. And I mean, one of which is that insufficient generation or high generation could actually lead to this frequent collapse that we are, which is more common in the Nigerian situation. Three factors here. Yeah. Vandalism, insufficient generation, too much generation, which is more, because he has also said that TCN will not give us reasons why these collapses happen when they do happen.
Okay, thank you very much. I very much agree with him in terms of what he has said, in terms of those factors that collapse the grid. And just like he said, if the TCN is not coming out to tell us why the grid has collapsed, is it vandalism, is it too low generation, is it too high generation, they don't tell us. But I can figure out, I can hazard a guess to say that majority of the grid collapses will be coming from too much generation. And I will tell you why.
Too much generation?
Yes, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I will take us to 11 years earlier, 2013. The government of President Jonathan privatized the power sector. So they privatized the generation, which actually generates the power, and they privatized the distribution, which are the discos or distribution companies, for inexplicable reasons, which I don't know. Maybe they perhaps know. They left transmission unprivatized. It then meant that the whole privatization that happened 11 years ago was dead on arrival. How do I mean dead on arrival? The people that bought into generation, they can't invest. You know why? Because if they invest, the vehicle to carry the power is not there. That's transmission.
How much? I mean, how many megawatts do we generate as of today?
Okay, so statistics differ.
Yes.
Nigeria is doing anything from 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts. Sometimes we get to 5,000.
Which is grossly inefficient for
Brazil,
a country of over
200 million people.
200 million people.
Brazil has an equivalent population like ours. And it will shock Nigerians to learn that Brazil is doing 150,000 megawatts of electricity per day.
And we are generating...
Doing 3,000 to 5,000. So just imagine, maybe if you think about it in terms of salary, somebody is earning 150,000, then this family is earning 3,000, 5,000. How can you compare? And I totally disagree with my co-panelists who say this is not for the president. This is squarely for the president. The president needs to call all the power sector stakeholders and invest an hour of his time to ask the question, why is transmission not privatized? Because it is the reason why the investment, which my co-panelists talked about, is not coming there, right? And then we all know that distribution or the discos, the licenses were handed over to companies that had no pedigree in the power sector, no financial capacity, no technical capacity, no managerial capacity. I compare the power sector privatization with the telecoms privatization. Why is telecom successful? Because, number one, the licenses were handed over to existing telecoms operators. The MTNs, the Airtels, the Etisalas were already operating in the sector. They had the money, they had the technology, they had the expertise. So once they were given the licenses, they came to Nigeria, drew upon their resources from elsewhere, and that is how we moved from 500,000 lines to 220 million lines today. By investing over $100 billion in that sector, these telecoms companies have improved our line availability from 500,000, 500,000, to 220 million. Ask the power sector operators, how much have they invested? When we sold NEPA, we were doing 5,000 to 6,000 megawatts. And today we are doing 3,000 to maybe 4,000 megawatts. That's to show you that there has been no investment.
Well, which brings me back, Mr. Abule, to the question. Because you said at the beginning that you think that it is over-generation, too much generation, that is the problem that's resulting in the frequent collapse. If we are generating only between 3,000 and 4,000 megawatts, whereas Brazil is generating over 150,000 for the same number of persons. So why is only 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts too much?
Okay, so
to warrant a collapse?
This is the point. Because the national grid is still in the control of government, being run by the transmission company of Nigeria, the government does not have money to put in there and expand the capacity to allow the gencos or the generation companies to push power through. So the private sector that bought into the gencos, sometimes they try to test additional power into, because it is what they
into the distribution chain.
It is what they put into the transmission that gives them money. So they try to put a bit more into transmission to see if transmission will carry it, and transmission just fails and say, I can carry it. Grid is down. So the question the president needs to ask is, why is transmission, because forget about all these CMS and all of these things, until that transmission is totally privatized to invite investment, both local and foreign, we are going to be having this discussion for the next 10 years. And you know why? I hear some people that say, oh, transmission is a national security asset. We can't privatize it. And I ask them the question, between transmission and telecoms, which one is carrying more security risk? Because as we speak today, the Chief of Defense Staff is on an MTN or ATEL line, talking to the Chief of Naval Staff and Chief of Air Staff or Chief of Army Staff. We have all of our even president talking to Vice President on telecoms that is privatized. So what is the big deal about the security of transmission that will not let it into private sector to invite the funding? Because this deal that they are doing with CMS, which government is in control of it, is not going to work as good as if CMS were saying, take transmission, expand the capacity, make the money for yourself, but give Nigerians electricity at cheaper rates than what we have now. Do you know why electricity is expensive now? We had one NEPA, with one managing director, a set of executives that we were paying through the tariff. Privatization happened. We have 11 discos. That's 11 managing directors, 11 set of executives, 11 offices, and all of that. We have the GENCOs, about perhaps more than 10 companies in the GENCOs, the Lumelus and the Otedolas that are there, all right? This power from where they are getting the money is 3,000 megawatts. So we are now trying to extract enough tariff from Nigerians from only 3,000 megawatts to pay all these companies. But if these companies are invested and took power supply to, say, 30,000 megawatts, even at a fraction of the current tariff, they'll be making more money. And that's what the telecoms did. From 500,000, they are supplying us 220 million lines. So even at a fraction, because I tell people I sold my wife's phone in this Abuja for 150,000 more than 20 years ago. But now a SIM card could be as cheap as free. But they're still making money. Why? From 220 million active lines.
Okay.
That is why they're making money. And we need power to do the same.
Mr. Lubio, let's bring you back into the discussion now. I'm sure that you have been able to rectify that little problem. So you have heard from both Mr. Agule and Mr. Oduton. It appears that from what Mr. Agule said, the problem is not with generation, and not with the distribution, but with the transmission. Not with the GENCOs, not with the discos.
No, it's also with the discos.
But with the...
It's also with the discos.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but where does the problem
The problem
really
is
lie?
transmission and distribution, because distribution don't have capacity.
Mr. Lubio.
Yeah.
You need to unmute. We can't hear you, Mr. Lubio. You need to unmute your microphone so that we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to appreciate the contribution by the two speakers, panelists that spoke earlier. Invariably, in 2013, I was a member of the National Technical Investigative Panel on Power System Collapses, System Stability and Reliability. And in 2020, I was equally a member of the Presidential Ad hoc Committee on Review of Electricity Tariff. These are very critical committee that has measures of support we are discussing. Well, the issue of system collapses is as a result of the fact that you cannot build something on nothing. Some of the equipment we have on the grid, they have what they call the wear and tear. Even for as simple as a generator in the power plant or meter that you use for measuring the indices for energy accountability, they have their life share span. If you buy a television in your home or meter, they are electromechanical devices that after some time, your picture IC, and other this thing, you may not get the quality of what you get from your TV after 5 years or what have you. And in a typical metering devices, after 4 or 5 years of usage, you need to pull them out and take them for recalibrations. Either they are overbilling the customer or they are billing the customer. So the same thing applies to the national grid. Some of the equipment we have on the national grid are 19th century technology being used in 21st century. These are generators that ordinarily will have needed to have been rested, taken out of the thing. Transformers that you have in whatever form, whether high capacity transmission transformer or equipment, they are not meant to be used forever. Take, for example, the major causes of system collapses is when generation, for example, if generation is at 5,000 megawatts, it is expected that transmission and distribution as a tripod will be at equilibrium. You generate 5,000 megawatts, the transmission, which is the go-between, will evacuate 5,000 megawatts, and the distribution load centers will evacuate 5,000 megawatts. That will create great stability. And apart from the quantum of generation on the grid, there are equally, the designers of the grid envisage some proactive measures that could occur. Like if you have a natural grid system, there's what we call the grid system protective scheme. There's what we call under frequency relay. There's what we call spinning reserve, like you have said. The essence of the spinning reserve is for the upstream, where if you generate like a power bank, when you have a grid distortion or grid instability, what the spinning reserve does is that the excess of generation, you keep a threshold of say 4,000 megawatts and you generate 5,000 megawatts, you now domicile the excess of the nominated load in the spinning reserve, so that when there are grid collapses, that reserve you have, with the black start equipment from the generation, we help to restore supply. As we speak to you now, we have a huge deficit of spinning reserve. We've been planning work in progress to do procurement. And another important point is that, are we really sincere about even acquiring this spinning reserve? Because from my interaction with the leadership of CCN yesterday, I understand that the cost of auxiliary services, because we have to pay for the spinning reserve and it will be returned to the market, and it's going to cost us an average of 3.5 billion monthly. Is the distribution company ready to spread that to the tariff? Even willing charges for energy being evacuated and distributed to the discos. The discos have been having challenges of remittances, and they don't usually do pay for the vouchers that they're usually giving. So one of the major reasons, like I've said, is if generation generates 5,000 megawatts, and one of the conductors, like we had in Jeba, Shiroro, Kangi the other time, if one of the conductors, is overheated, like I said, some of these equipment, they were installed over 30, 40 years ago. And in a typical grid, you don't use a grid without maintenance. We have been paying lip service. Federal government have tried. You don't need to blame. Let me put my brother in proper perspective. We don't need to blame Mr. President at any point in time for non-investment. Even when this money are made available. If you go to AFCC, you understand what I'm talking about. Even when this money are made available, the legislature, those in government, see the budget for the grid as a cash cow. They see the budget, they do emergency procurement, and money has been misappropriated or misdirected, misapplication of funds. Like in the last 2-3 years, last 10 years or so, Nigeria have taken nothing less than 10 to 15 billion US dollar in loan for the power sector. And in 2013, we celebrated peak evacuation, generation and distribution of about 5,600 megawatts. And we're talking about 11 years after, we've not been able to achieve 6,000 megawatts threshold of evacuation. And what's the problem? We've not been able to do additional 4,000 megawatts. We have installed capacity of 13,000 megawatts. Readily available capacity on the average, we are doing 3,500 megawatts. So it's quite disheartening and appalling. The problem is not, even if Mr. President gets a loan, sovereign guarantee of 30 billion US dollars, it will, what we call them, the crocodiles in the sector, they are ready to push the money elsewhere. Take, for example, vegetation management and vegetation control. On every line infrastructure, the transmission towers, around the rainforest, if you go to Delta, if you are moving from Asaba to Ila, Ebu, you see you have rubber plantation, you have plantation based on the terrain, the vegetation of different areas. There are trees, there are rubbers, there are climbers that looks like the leaves of sweet potato that climbs the grid. So where there are trees under the vegetation, you don't use hand to do line tracing. Line tracing means clearing the right of ways. You need to do mechanized vegetation control. When last did we do mechanized vegetation control? The total system collapses is when you lose the entire grid and you are on zero, you know. But if you have partial system distortion or collapses, it could even be as a result of leak. When a leaf touches transmission line, the leaf will burn. The line will trip off. You will not know where it's coming from. So every transmission line is not supposed to have a leaf or tree growing under them. They will cause transient fault. Another example is what happened this week on Monday. There was a loss of major load between Benin Oshogbo line of the transmission and between Jeba line of the transmission. If the way the grid is designed is a radial system. What we mean by radial system? It is obey before complain. Just one line, monolithic line of a grid. Instead of breaking them down to a loop system. What the loop system does is the energy we're able to have later in the, as we speak to you, Agor Palace, Festac, and several parts of Lagos, they've not been restored to grid after 4 days. Some parts of Abuja have not been restored to grid. So the Federal Capital Territory having supply as we speak to you, we have to backfeed from Kanji Shirono line. And only Katape transmission substation were able to bring in. Gwagwalada, Kukuaba, and several others, we could not bring them in. So on the grid, as we speak now, we have Bolekaja grid. What do I mean by Bolekaja grid? If you are using an auto machine, 2020, 2024 model of automobile, you know what? You know the sweetness of it. And when you are buying using Bolekaja, sucking, it will begin to K. So we have a 2K grid. It is a product of, you can't give what you don't have. As we speak to you, the grid does not have a SCADA. I want to align with the Bamufin of Egbaland worldwide that transmission company of Nigeria, as we speak, they've not been able to come out with a definitive cause of this cause of the system collapses because we don't have a SCADA. For the past 15 years,
all right, Mr. Olubio, let's bring in Mr. Oduton again now to this discussion. You have put a lot on the table. Mr. Oduton, Mr. Olubio has spoken about...
When there's a bomb that's still on top of the station in Nigeria is that we have been paying lip services to reinvestment in the sector. We have always been on top of the station. We don't have SCADA. We don't have spinning reserve. We have defective system protective devices. If there are challenges on the grid, what the frequency relay supposed to do is to isolate. Most of them are defective. So system protective scheme or devices at different layers are obsolete. You don't have a SCADA. You don't have what's it called? You don't have black staff. You don't have spinning reserve. So how do you run the grid in that? You are not doing vegetation control. So
okay, Mr. Olubio. Yes, Mr. Olubio, let's bring in Mr. Oduton. You have put so much on the table right now. Mr. Oduton, Mr. Olubio has spoken about outdated infrastructure, whether in terms of generation or transmission or indeed distribution. And he has also spoken about corruption in high places, particularly in government circles and all of that. So, Mr. Agule has also spoken about investment, private sector participation, particularly in the transmission aspect of the sector. What's your take on all of this?
Thank you very much. Thank you. The truth is that you cannot run a country, a power sector in any country, without talking about investment. And you cannot talk about investment without talking about cost recovery. Now, whether you're talking about generation, transmission, or distribution, the issue of cost recovery is very, very important. No businessman will put his money into any business if he cannot recover his cost. So when my brother in the studio there said, hey, distribution have no capacity, transmission have no capacity. Talk is cheap. Oh. I've been doing this job for over 10 years, and I know the issue. You are in Oshogbo. You are controlling electricity in Baduguri, Bini Kebi, Port Harcourt, Abeokuta. But there in Oshogbo, you are using mobile phone to call them. When the technology says you should use SCADA, when you can monitor the line real life, you can know what's going on. If the line trip, you can know exactly what to do. But you don't have that in this country. People are talking about grid collapse. The grid will continue to collapse unless and until we are able to do the right investment. And you have had Kunle, I agree with Kunle entirely. And you mentioned the FTC, that if you go there, you see files, not my word. It is Kunle talking. And Kunle also spoke about how they do emergency budgeting, how they do emergency procurement. I don't know about that, but Kunle is talking. But truth is that I agree with him entirely when I say you cannot blame the president. When you blame the president as a person for the problem in the sector, it is just not fair. You cannot do that.
Does the
So
buck not
we
stop at
come
his
on
table?
national TV and we're saying the president is to blame.
Does the buck not stop at the table of the
But the
president?
buck stops on the table of the president.
That's right.
Because as the leader, he's the one that appoints people into places. What I expect the president to do is that whoever is not performing should be removed. But not that we should be doing blaming and claiming as if the president has 4 heads. If the president has to ensure that everything works, whatever does not work, whoever is in charge, then we should ask the right question. That's what I meant. I'm not saying we should exonerate the president completely from the problem of the Nigerian power sector. Now, the traditional grid of Nigeria is radial in nature. Like Kunle said, it goes on a straight line. There are no loops. We need to have loops so that if there's a problem in Calabar, you can isolate it and you still have light in Port Harcourt, you still have light in Abeokuta, Ilorin, and of course in Sokoto. But what we have now is that once there's problem in one place, you will not have light in other places. So these are the kind of things that we all need to deal with, but it calls for investment. Then our brother there in the studio also spoke about ownership, the issue of security, and so well, the federal government in their own wisdom feel that they cannot privatize TCN. But at the least, I expect them to do a kind of concession. Government agencies cannot run the TCN. TCN needs to go into private hand, whether it's going to be in form of concession or outright sale. As far as I'm concerned, I think a major problem is the issue of TCN. But we also have problem with distribution that I represent. We also have problem with generation. In the case of generation, we are not generating enough. And our brother in the studio, he has said it, or I don't want to repeat him. We need to up our game. We need to generate more electricity. If we generate more electricity, we have to have an alignment, technical and financial alignment. If you are generating 10,000 megawatts, you must be able to transmit 10,000 megawatts. You must be able to distribute 10,000 megawatts. That's 10, 10, 10. That's what is called alignment. Financial alignment. If you are generating, transmitting, and distributing 10,000 megawatts, people must be able to pay for the product. When we started Bande, people were complaining, oh, Bande is too expensive. People don't want to pay for electricity, but they want light. You can never have light if you're not ready to pay for it. And people that are talking about the businessmen who have put their money in this sector, as if they don't have capacity, they did. Because they are not able to recover their cost. The incentive to invest more is just not there. You can't keep borrowing money to invest in any system when you cannot get your money back. That's what is going on. Energy theft in Nigeria is very high. It is mind-boggling. Non-payment is mind-boggling. And when you talk about producers, they want 100% remittance. They want their money back 100%. But we can never collect 100%. We are not able to collect 100%. Everybody in this studio, you can all confirm in your area where you live. Everybody in your neighborhood, nobody pay for electricity 100%. And that's the problem. Even those who have prepaid meters, almost 40% of prepaid meters in Nigeria are bypassed. And once you bypass your prepaid meter, that means you are not paying the true cost of electricity. That means there are a lot of leakages and holes. Anybody can blame the discos, anybody can blame the government, anybody can even blame the president. But we're all in the same soup. All of us have a part to play. That's what I meant earlier when I said you can't just be blaming the president alone or the minister of power. No, all of us have a role to play. And that's exactly what I mean.
So
thank you.
Well, let me ask this very quick question before you go, Mr. Oduson. Why do we have a single national grid? Is it possible to disaggregate this national grid and make it more efficient so that you have grids that attend to one section of the country or the other?
Yes, it is possible. That's why I think government need to step in and do the needful. The Electricity Act of 2023, as amended, has actually taken care of some of these things. The question you asked is there in that act. States and local government are even allowed now to generate, transmit, and distribute their own electricity. We can find a way to ensure that we don't have a single national grid. Again, government need to let go of this 100% ownership of the national grid. That is the starting point. Once they do that, then other things will take place. I believe that things will get better. And for those who say these codes have no capacity, I can tell you today, I can give you facts that the electricity supply has improved, even though our generation is still low. But there's an improvement all over the country now. Minimum of 16 to 18% of our customers today have 20 hours of electricity. Those are people in Band-Aid. The next time you hear about Band-Aid, the meaning of Band-Aid is we are inching towards 24/7 electricity for those class of customers who are paying the true cost of electricity without the government subsidy. That is the issue that we should be talking about, whether or not government should be paying subsidy or not.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Oduton. Stay with us. Mr. Agule, let me come back to you here in the studio. Now, we appear to have outlined all the problems, or most of the problems in the power sector. Let's look at solutions now within the limits of the time we have left.
Yeah.
Diversification of energy sources.
Yes.
Is that an option?
It's an option. But before I continue on that, let me clarify one thing, because this issue of blaming the president has come through strongly. I speak for myself. I don't know for others, but I speak for myself. I'm not blaming the president. Because when the president took office last year, we were still on 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts. So he was not the cause of that. But since he took office, what I'm saying that the president needs to step in and take the right decisions. Because he has come into a situation...
And he did make electoral promises in that regard.
Exactly. If you look at his manifesto, he has said things that he needed to do, and he's into his second year in office. So he has to begin to do those things. You understand? So because when the president has come in, he said, I unify exchange rate, I remove petrol subsidies and all of that. Bold policies. But those policies are not going to work if power situation doesn't improve. For instance, it is power situation that needs to improve so that we'll become a manufacturing country again. It's when we are manufacturing that the pressure on the exchange rate will minimize, right? It is when we now have a power that people are no longer putting, generating electricity with petroleum products, causing the fuel subsidy crisis, right? So what I'm saying is that, Mr. President, you have come into the situation 1 year plus in office, we're still on 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts. Call a summit. When I say call a summit, I'm not blaming him. I'm saying take the steps. Call a summit of all the power sector stakeholders. Ask the question, why are we still on 4,000 megawatts when Brazil is on 150,000 megawatts? What should we do? And the answers will be there for him. My colleagues have already talked about it. Transmission, he has to do something about it. And I agree with my colleague, whether he wants to outrightly sell it through privatization or concession, but he just needs to do something about transmission. And then I can come to the discos. I will tell you that we know who the disco owners are. If you go to CAC, you will see the document. They registered the disco today. Tomorrow, they got a license. Do you understand? If you look at what happened in telecoms, telecoms didn't come in and said, let us use NITE's 500,000 lines and make money before we invest. No, they first invested $100 billion, increased the 500,000 to 220 million lines, and then they are making money from it. Why are the power sector people not doing it? We want them to invest so that when they improve the output to, let's say, 30,000 megawatts, then they will start making money. And this is what we expect the government to tell them to do. And I will assure you that, look, we know who these discos are. They don't have the capacity. They took loans to buy the licenses. And they took those loans at 150 naira. Now they have to find 1,600 naira to repay $1 of the loan. They are in crisis. They are with AMCOM. They have been taken over by AMCOM and all of that. So we can't sit here and say they are doing well. And Mr. President needs to do something about discos. He will say, look, You guys, I can leave you with the licenses, but go and find technical partnerships, which is what happens in the oil industry. Somebody gets an oil block, finds a technical partner who brings money, technology, expertise, they do it, right? So Mr. President can offer that olive branch. Or he can say, look, I'm taking the licenses from you, and I'm giving it to power sector operators. Because you are pinning us down. You are pinning Nigeria down. But there is something else that Mr. President has done, which is good. Mr. President, within a few days of taking office, signed into law the Electricity Act. The Electricity Act has now opened the space for the subnational government to
participate in the sector.
They need to get up to the game. Because as we speak today, perhaps it's about 3, 4, 5 states that even have the equivalent law domesticated in their states. What are the other governors doing? Domesticate the Electricity Act, open up the space, so that we will not even be talking about transmission.
People who have governments that have not domesticated minimum wage, you expect them to domesticate this?
But we have to call on them to do it. Because you know one thing, sir, is that why are we using transmission? Because we were using thermal stations, using gas, which is in the south, right? But we needed to wheel that power to Maiduguri. We were using water, which is in Kainji, Shirolo, wheel that power to Adamawa. If you go to renewables, which is sunshine, what do you call it, wind, and even water, you don't need transmission per se. You will not have mini grid. Why? Because there is sunshine in the 36 states of Nigeria and the FCT. So generate the power there and supply it there to them.
It brings us back to the whole question of having mini grids.
Yes.
Rather have one
single generate the power. You don't need gas again in Egbe.
Right. Okay.
Generate the power with the sun in Sokoto and supply it to them there in Sokoto.
All right.
And that's where the subnationals need to step up in the game.
Thank you so much. That time is up. It's an ongoing discussion where we will have to leave it at that for now. Thank you, Mr. Nick Agule is an energy expert and an accountant. And we have also been joined virtually by Kunle Olubiyo, who is the president, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network. Thank you so much for your time. And Mr. Sunday Oduton is the MD CEO of Research and Advocacy Association of Nigeria Electricity Distributors. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, and to you, our viewers out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. And we look forward to bringing you a fresh edition of the program, People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.